Lieutenant Jason Miller stood at the observation deck of the USS Horizon, watching the stars streak by. He wasn't used to space travel yet. After 12 years as a Marine combat instructor on Earth, the sterile environment of a diplomatic vessel felt confining. The recycled air lacked the earthy smell of training grounds back home. But orders were orders, and humanity needed its best to represent them among the stars. The door hissed open behind him. Captain Darius Wright stepped onto the deck, his uniform crisp despite the late hour. "Can't sleep, Lieutenant?" he asked. Jason shook his head. "Just thinking, sir. About tomorrow's meeting with the Valkyrie delegation?" "Yes, sir." Jason turned to face his commanding officer. "I've reviewed all the briefings, but text files don't capture everything." Captain Wright smiled slightly. "The Valkyrie are an experience. Been the dominant species in the Confederation for over 3,000 years. Apex predators on their homeworld, and they've never let anyone forget it." "And they see humans as what exactly?" Jason asked. "Fragile newcomers, prey species playing at civilization." Wright's expression hardened. "Which is why your assignment is more important than you know. The Valkyrie respect strength above all else, but they have a very narrow definition of what constitutes strength." Jason nodded. 6 months ago, humanity had been invited to join the Galactic Confederation after first contact. The diplomatic corps quickly discovered that humans were physically weaker than most spacefaring species. Smaller, softer, with duller senses and no natural weapons. On paper, they seemed unremarkable. "Remember," Wright continued, "no matter what happens, you're a diplomat now. Swallow your pride if you must. Understood, sir?" "Good, get some rest. You meet your liaison at 0800. The captain left, and Jason returned to watching the stars, wondering what humanity's place among them would truly be. The Valkyrie delegation chamber was designed to intimidate, ceiling soaring 20 feet high, lighting that cast dramatic shadows, and temperature set several degrees cooler than human comfort. Jason stood at parade rest, waiting. The door slid open. A Valkyrie warrior entered, 7 feet tall with mottled gray-green skin and natural armor plates along his shoulders and spine. His yellow eyes locked onto Jason immediately. "I am Kravik, 3rd Talon of the Valkyrie Honor Guard," he announced, voice rumbling. "I have been assigned to instruct you in Confederation protocols." Jason offered the traditional greeting gesture he'd been taught. "Lieutenant Jason Miller, Earth Defense Force, thank you for your guidance." Kravik's mouth quirked in what Jason recognized as a Valkyrie expression of amusement. "The prey attempts courtesy. Let us begin with a tour of the station. You will need to know where you are permitted to go." Jason noted the choice of words, permitted, but kept his expression neutral as he followed Kravik through the massive space station that served as the Confederation's diplomatic hub. They walked through grand corridors where representatives of 24 species conducted business. Jason cataloged each new alien, noting physical characteristics and behaviors. Most gave the Valkyrie a wide berth. Several gave Jason curious or pitying looks. "The training facilities," Kravik announced as they entered a vast chamber. Various aliens were engaged in combat exercises. Some used weapons, others practiced hand-to-hand techniques. All moved with dangerous grace. "Impressive," Jason said, meaning it. "Combat readiness is the foundation of Confederation membership," Kravik explained. "Even species not naturally suited to warfare must demonstrate basic proficiency. Humans, I understand, have your primitive conflicts, but nothing preparing you for the realities of galactic threats." Before Jason could respond, a commotion broke out nearby. A Valkyrie officer loomed over a much smaller alien with blue-tinted skin and 4 arms, the smaller being cowered as the Valkyrie berated it. "Pathetic display, Nuvian. Your species exemptions expire soon. Will you hide behind treaties forever?" The Valkyrie officer shoved the smaller alien, who stumbled backward. Jason stepped forward before thinking. "Is there a problem here?" "Tatar." Valkyrie officer turned, seeming surprised that a human would interrupt. Up close, Jason saw rank insignia marking him as a commander. "This is not your concern, human," the commander said. "Return to your designated areas." The Nuvian used the distraction to slip away. Jason remained where he was, hands relaxed at his sides. Commander Vrax, Kravik intervened. This is the human representative I was assigned to orient. Commander Vrax looked Jason up and down with obvious disdain. So this is Earth's offering, smaller than expected. He circled Jason slowly. Tell me, human, do your kind always interfere in disciplinary matters between superior officers and their subordinates? On Earth, we have different training methods, Jason said carefully. I was curious about yours. Curious? Vrax laughed, a harsh sound that drew attention from around the room. The prey species has soft hearts to match their soft bodies. Tell me, how does your kind survive with such inappropriate instincts? Jason met the alien's gaze steadily. We manage. Something in Jason's tone made Vrax pause. The Valkyrie commander stepped closer, using his height advantage to loom over Jason. Kravik, your new assignment shows disrespect. Perhaps it should be included in tomorrow's combat demonstrations, so all may learn about humanity's management techniques. Before Kravik could answer, Jason spoke. I would be honored to observe Confederation training methods. Vrax's eyes narrowed. Not observe, participate, unless Earth sends only watchers, not warriors. Jason felt the trap closing but saw no honorable way out. I serve at the Confederation's pleasure. Excellent. Vrax's mouth stretched in what might generously be called a smile. Junior Demonstration Group. Basic combat principles. We would not want to overwhelm you on your first day. With that, the commander stalked away, leaving an uncomfortable silence. You should not have done that, Kravik said quietly. Commander Vrax has 300 combat victories. He leads the elite Sundered Claw Battalion. I didn't come here to start trouble, Jason replied. Yet you intervened for a Nuvian technician. Their species is barely tolerated, useful only for their mathematical abilities. Kravik studied Jason with new interest. Perhaps humans share more with prey species than just physical weakness. Jason didn't respond to the bait. What time is tomorrow's demonstration? The 7th bell. I will escort you. Kravik turned to leave, then paused. Wear whatever protective gear your species uses. Vrax's definition of basic principles may differ from yours. After Kravik departed, Jason stayed in the training hall, watching the various aliens drill. He paid special attention to Valkyrie. Movements, their strengths, their patterns, their unconscious habits. That evening, alone in his quarters, Jason sent a message to Captain Wright describing the day's events. The response came quickly. Request denied. You will not withdraw from tomorrow's demonstration. Admiral Chen is aware and monitoring. Remember your mission parameters and trust your training. Jason closed his eyes and began his nightly meditation routine, focusing on his breathing. 12 years of teaching Marines had prepared him for many things. Tomorrow would show if it had prepared him enough. Outside his window, the vast sweep of unknown stars reminded him of just how far from home he truly was, and just how much was riding on humanity's first impression. 2 weeks passed aboard the Confederation station, and Jason Miller felt every minute of them. The Valkyrie made sure he understood his place in their hierarchy, at the very bottom. Meal times in the common area meant sitting alone as other species kept their distance. Training sessions involved demonstrations where Valkyrie warriors showcased techniques too advanced for human physiology. Every conversation carried the undertone that humanity was lucky to be included at all. Jason kept his mouth shut and his eyes open. He absorbed everything, the way different species moved, how the Valkyrie positioned themselves in rooms, which aliens commanded respect despite smaller stature. He spent his free time in his quarters reviewing Confederation history and species, biology on his datapad. On his 15th day, Jason was finally joined at his solitary table by another human. Lieutenant Nicole Porter sat down across from him with her tray, her dark hair pulled back in a tight regulation bun. Don't look so surprised, Miller, she said quietly. There are 2 of us aboard, after all. Jason nodded. Nice to finally meet you, Porter. Been wondering when our paths would cross. I've been watching your adjustment. She took a bite of the protein substitute that passed for meat on the station. Word travels fast when a human interrupts a Valkyrie commander. Not my proudest diplomatic moment. Porter shook her head. It was exactly what needed to happen. The Valkyrie respect boundaries, even if they constantly test them. You showed spine. That matters more than you know. Jason studied her. You've been here longer. Any advice about tomorrow's training spar? Her expression grew serious. They're going to test your limits hard. The Valkyrie evolved from ambush predators. They expect fear, then shutdown. When prey doesn't react as expected, it confuses them. I'm not planning to embarrass Earth on my first official appearance. Porter leaned forward. You need to understand something about human history that the Confederation doesn't teach. When Earth united after the last war, we developed combat. Techniques no other species considers viable. We assume we're physically weaker, so we compensate in ways they've never needed to. Jason recalled his years teaching Marines, how humans could turn disadvantages into strengths with the right mindset. They're expecting me to fight like them. Exactly. Porter's eyes darted around the room, checking who might be listening. Commander Vrax has never lost a spar, not once in 30 years. He's planning to humiliate you to make a point about humanity. And Admiral Chen is allowing this? She requested it. Porter's smile was tight. Sometimes the best diplomacy is letting others underestimate you. Just remember, you represent all of us now. Before Jason could ask more questions, his wrist communicator buzzed. The message was brief. Tomorrow's training demonstration had been moved up. Vrax had personally requested Jason join the advanced group instead. The message ended with a reminder about medical facilities being available afterward. Looks like I've been promoted, Jason said dryly, showing Porter the message. She wasn't smiling anymore. They're not even being subtle now. The advanced group means full contact. Vrax wants an audience for this. Then he'll have one. Jason stood up, appetite gone. I need to prepare. Thanks for the company, Porter. Miller, she called after him. Whatever happens tomorrow, don't hold back. Jason spent the evening in moving meditation, cycling through forms and breathing techniques. Sleep came easier than expected, deep and dreamless. The next morning, Kravik arrived to escort him to the training arena. The Valkyrie seemed unusually subdued. You understand this is not my choice, Kravik said as they walked. Commander Vrax has arranged for representatives from 12 Confederation species to observe today. Is that unusual? Jason asked. It is unprecedented for a new species' first training session. Kravik's yellow eyes studied Jason. The commander believes this will be educational. I hope it will be, Jason replied mildly. The training arena was larger than Jason expected. A circular space 50 meters across with various terrain types around the edges and a central flat area. The gravity was set to standard, which Jason noted as a small mercy. The observation deck that ringed the arena was filled with aliens of all shapes and sizes, many pointing at Jason as he entered. In a private section of the deck, Admiral Lisa Chen sat with several high-ranking Confederation officials. Her face betrayed no emotion, but her posture was rigid with tension. Commander Vrax stood in the center of the arena, wearing minimal protective gear over his chest. His natural armor, plates gleamed under the bright lights, gray-green skin stretched over powerful muscles. Standing nearly 7 feet tall, he looked like he could snap Jason in half without effort. Jason wore the standard human combat uniform, flexible material designed to absorb impacts without restricting movement. Next to Vrax, he looked almost childlike in stature. The human has arrived, Vrax announced, voice amplified for the audience. Today we demonstrate proper combat techniques for the benefit of our newest Confederation members. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Jason caught snippets of conversation, including wagers being placed on how long he would last. The most generous gave him 30 seconds. Kravik stepped forward to explain the rules. This is a standard training spar. Victory comes by submission or incapacitation. Medical teams stand ready. He looked between the two combatants. "Take positions." Jason moved to one side of the central circle, facing Vrax directly. The commander began circling him slowly, claws flexing at his sides. "I have studied human physiology," Vrax said, loud enough for the audience to hear. "Your species lacks natural armor or claws. Your muscles are inefficient. Your reflexes are dulled by generations of safety and comfort. Today you learn what real combat means in the greater galaxy." Jason remained silent, watching Vrax's movements with quiet intensity. He noticed the slight favoring of the left leg, the way the commander held his right shoulder fractionally higher than the left. "Nothing to say, human?" Vrax taunted. "Perhaps fear has taken your voice?" "I'm here to learn," Jason replied simply. His calm response seemed to irritate Vrax more than any defiance would have. The commander's posture shifted slightly, muscles coiling. "Then your first lesson begins now," Vrax said. "In the Confederation, strength determines everything." Jason nodded once, centering his weight. "I look forward to the demonstration." The signal to begin came with a sharp tone. Vrax immediately tensed, then launched forward with blinding speed that had intimidated countless opponents before. But when his claws slashed through the air, they met nothing. Jason had already moved. The true training spar was about to begin. A collective gasp rose from the audience as Vrax's claws sliced through empty air. The Valkyrie commander had moved with legendary speed, yet somehow, the human was no longer where he had been standing. Jason had shifted just 6 inches to the side, the minimum distance needed to avoid the attack. Vrax recovered quickly, whirling to face Jason with narrowed yellow eyes. The easy confidence in his posture had vanished, replaced by focused intensity. "Impressive reflexes for a prey species," he growled. Jason didn't respond. His face remained calm, his stance relaxed but ready. He had positioned himself at the perfect distance, close enough to engage, far enough to react. From the observation deck, Admiral Chen leaned forward slightly. Next to her, a tall, blue-skinned alien with 4 arms, a Nuvian diplomat, whispered something that made her lips tighten into a thin line. Vrax circled more cautiously now. A lucky dodge. Nothing more. This time, when he attacked, it was a combination. A sweeping low kick followed by a downward strike with his armored forearm. The move had broken bones of a dozen different species. Jason stepped inside the kick, absorbing part of the force along his thigh while simultaneously shifting his weight. As the armored forearm came down, Jason wasn't beneath it. He had moved to Vrax's side, his own hands striking with precision at a point where the commander's natural armor plates met softer tissue. Vrax grunted in surprise. The blow hadn't hurt him, but he had felt it, something few opponents ever managed. The audience was totally silent now. Even the most disinterested observers were paying full attention. "You have studied Valkyrie anatomy," Vrax said, rolling his shoulder. "But knowledge is not power." He launched into a full offensive sequence, the kind used to overwhelm opponents with superior speed and strength. His claws became a blur, striking from multiple angles. His feet moved in perfect coordination, cutting off escape routes. His armored body became a weapon itself, each movement designed to create impact or trap his opponent. For 3 full seconds, Jason was in constant motion, not retreating but moving within the storm of attacks. He deflected where possible, redirected where necessary, and absorbed impact where advantageous. Not a single clean hit landed on him. On the 4th second, Jason counterattacked. His first strike targeted the nerve cluster beneath Vrax's left arm, a weakness known to Valkyrie healers but rarely exploited in combat. His second strike used the commander's forward momentum to apply pressure to the joint connecting arm and shoulder plate. His third move was a sweep that momentarily compromised Vrax's balance. None of these attacks would have worked on their own. Together, they created a split-second vulnerability. In the observation deck, Kravik leaned forward in disbelief. "Impossible," he muttered. Admiral Chen's expression hadn't changed, but her eyes were locked on the human's movements with fierce concentration. Vrax recovered with the natural agility of his species. But something had changed. His next attack was more deliberate, more powerful. He closed distance with a roar, using his superior weight to trap the human against the edge of the combat circle. "Now you have nowhere to go," he snarled. Jason didn't try to escape. Instead, he stepped toward Vrax, inside the effective range of those deadly claws. His hands moved in precise patterns, targeting pressure points and joint connections. He used Vrax's strength against him, leveraging the commander's muscle mass to increase the effect of each carefully placed strike. For a moment, they were locked together in what looked like an embrace. Then Jason rotated his hips, shifted his weight, and somehow, impossibly, Vrax found himself airborne. The commander crashed down on his back, armored plates striking the floor with a sound that echoed through the silent arena. He was up in an instant, eyes wide with shock and growing rage. "What combat style is this?" he demanded, circling more warily now. Jason finally spoke. "Just basics. Learned in my first year of training." A murmur ran through the crowd. Several aliens were consulting their data devices, searching for information on human combat techniques that clearly wasn't in their files. Vrax attacked again, this time with cold precision. He had abandoned the showy demonstrations and now fought with the full skill that had made him a legendary warrior. Each move was calculated, powerful, and executed with flawless technique. Jason met him with equal precision but different methods. Where Vrax was power, Jason was efficiency. Where the Valkyrie used natural weapons, the human used knowledge of physiology. Where the commander relied on intimidation, Jason projected calm focus. They exchanged a series of strikes and counters that increased in speed and complexity. To the observers, it seemed impossible that the human could match the Valkyrie, yet the fight remained even. From her position, Lieutenant Porter watched with tight-lipped satisfaction. She caught the eye of a Nuvian technician, the same one Jason had defended weeks ago, who gave her a subtle nod. Admiral Chen remained perfectly still, her eyes never leaving the combat floor. After nearly a minute of intense exchange, Vrax backed up a step. A thin sheen of moisture covered his scales. He was exerting real effort now. "Enough warm-up," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Now I show you the difference between a predator and prey." In that moment, Jason's stance shifted subtly. Those who knew human combat would have recognized the change. He was no longer in a defensive posture. "I appreciate the instruction, Commander," Jason said calmly. "Would you like me to show you something in return?" Vrax's eyes narrowed at the perceived insult. His patience had run out. With a roar that displayed rows of sharp teeth, he charged. Forward with full killing intent, armor plates flaring and claws extended. Jason didn't move until the very last moment. Then he stepped forward rather than back. What happened next occurred so quickly that many observers couldn't follow it. Jason's hands moved in a precise sequence, targeting nerve clusters, joint connections, and balance points. He used Vrax's momentum, mass, and aggression against him. In less than 5 seconds, the mighty Valkyrie commander found himself on his knees, one arm immobilized in a joint lock that sent waves of pain through his nervous system. His other arm was trapped against his own armored chest. His balance was compromised so thoroughly that any movement increased the pain. Jason stood behind him, maintaining the holds with minimal apparent effort. "Do you yield, Commander?" he asked quietly. The arena was absolutely silent. Vrax struggled briefly, then went still as the pain intensified. His breathing was heavy, his pride wounded far more deeply than his body. "This is not possible," he growled through clenched teeth. "It is possible," Jason replied. "And now it has happened. Do you yield?" After what seemed an eternity, Vrax spoke, the formal words of submission in the Valkyrie tongue. Jason immediately released him and stepped back, offering a hand to help the commander up. Every observer in the arena stared in shocked silence. The training spar had lasted exactly 12 seconds. The silence in the arena lasted only seconds before it erupted into chaos. Aliens of all species began talking at once, some shouting in disbelief, others demanding explanations. Medical teams rushed forward though they weren't needed. Security. Personnel looked to their commanders for instructions that didn't come. Jason remained where he was, hands still extended to help Vrax up. The Valkyrie commander stared at the offered hand as though it were some strange object he'd never seen before. This was a training spar, Jason said quietly, for Vrax's ears only. Not a fight to the death. There is no shame in learning. After another moment of hesitation, Vrax took the offered hand and rose to his feet. His yellow eyes studied Jason with new intensity. "What are you?" he asked simply. Before Jason could answer, Admiral Chen appeared at the edge of the combat circle, flanked by Kravik and several high-ranking Confederation officials. Her face was carefully neutral, but her eyes held a glint of satisfaction. "An impressive demonstration," she said loudly enough for nearby observers to hear. "The Confederation training protocols have been honored by both participants." Vrax straightened to his full height. "Admiral Chen, this human has clearly concealed the true combat capabilities of your species. This is a violation of disclosure agreements." "Is it?" Chen raised an eyebrow. "Our submission included full details on human martial arts traditions dating back 3,000 years. The techniques Lieutenant Miller demonstrated are taught to our military personnel as standard training." "Impossible," said a tall, bird-like alien standing nearby. "We analyzed human physiology. Your muscle density, reaction time, and sensory capabilities are all inferior to Valkyrie baseline measurements." "True," Chen agreed smoothly. "And yet the results speak for themselves." The crowd pressed closer. Jason could feel dozens of alien eyes examining him as though he were a puzzle they couldn't solve. He maintained a relaxed, non-threatening posture, while staying alert. Kravik pushed his way forward until he stood directly in front of Jason. "You could have defeated Commander Vrax at any point," he said. It wasn't a question. Jason met his gaze steadily. The purpose was training, not victory. Yet victory came in 12 seconds once you decided to end it. Kravik's voice held a mixture of suspicion and growing respect. "Why wait? Why allow the commander to attack first?" "Because I came here to learn and to teach," Jason replied, "not to humiliate a respected warrior." From the edge of the circle, a new voice spoke. A fascinating philosophy from a species we were told had no true warriors. The crowd parted to reveal a Valkyrie elder. His scales faded to pale gray with age. His ceremonial armor identified him as High General Zorax, the most senior military leader in the Confederation. The room grew instantly quiet. Zorax approached slowly, studying Jason with ancient eyes. "I have observed combat for 200 years, human. I have never seen a Valkyrie commander defeated by a physically weaker opponent." Jason bowed his head slightly in respect. "With all due respect, High General, physical strength is only one factor in combat effectiveness." "Indeed." Zorax turned to Admiral Chen. "Your species has been selective in what you've shared with the Confederation Council." Chen's expression didn't change. "We provided all required information. How it was interpreted was beyond our control." Zorax made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Clever prey is more dangerous than strong predators. My ancestors learned this the hard way." He turned back to Jason. "You will explain how you defeated Commander Vrax, in detail." It wasn't a request. Jason looked to Admiral Chen, who gave a slight nod. "The commander's fighting style relies on intimidation, superior strength, and natural weapons," Jason began. "These are formidable advantages, but they create predictable patterns. Human combat training focuses on efficiency and adaptation rather than raw power." "Show me," Zorax commanded. Jason hesitated only briefly before turning to Vrax. "Commander, with your permission?" After a moment, Vrax nodded stiffly. Moving slowly, Jason demonstrated the key points he had targeted. The nerve clusters where Valkyrie armor plates connected to softer tissue, the weight distribution that could be exploited during aggressive charges, the joint mechanics that remain similar across many species. "We call this biomechanical efficiency," Jason explained, "using an opponent's structure against them." Zorax watched with intense concentration. And this is taught to all human warriors? Basic principles are part of standard military training, Jason confirmed. Those who specialize can develop much more advanced techniques. A ripple of unease passed through the alien observers. Admiral Chen stepped forward smoothly. The Confederation Charter emphasizes the value of diverse combat methodologies, she reminded everyone. Humans offer perspectives that complement existing approaches. Zorax studied her for a long moment. You planned this demonstration. Chen didn't deny it. It seemed more efficient than lengthy explanations that might not be believed. Efficient? Indeed. Zorax turned back to the assembled crowd. The training demonstration is concluded. Council members will convene immediately to discuss its implications. As the crowd reluctantly began to disperse, Kravik approached Jason again. The others of your kind, he said quietly. Do they all fight as you do? Jason thought of the training centers on Earth, where every human military force now cross-trained in techniques once exclusive to specific cultures. Each has their own strengths, but the principles are universal. Kravik nodded slowly. Then humanity is not what we believed. Few species are once you move beyond assumptions, Jason replied. Before Kravik could respond, Lieutenant Porter appeared, at Jason's side. Lieutenant Miller, Admiral Chen requests your presence for debriefing. As Jason turned to leave, Commander Vrax called out to him. Human. Jason paused. Tomorrow, Vrax said stiffly, I would learn more of these biomechanical efficiencies. It was as close to an acknowledgement of respect as a Valkyrie warrior could offer. Jason nodded once. I'll be here, Commander. As they walked away, Porter kept her voice low. You've just changed everything, you know. The tactical division said it would take months before we could safely demonstrate advanced capabilities. It was just a training spar, Jason said mildly. Porter snorted. Right. And now every species in the Confederation is reevaluating everything they thought they knew about humans. She glanced sideways at him. Admiral Chen is pleased, though she won't admit it publicly. This accelerates the timeline significantly. Timeline for what? Porter didn't answer directly. You'll be briefed shortly. Let's just say your next assignment won't involve playing the underestimated newcomer. As they walked through the station corridors, Jason noticed the difference immediately. Aliens who had previously ignored him now watched with cautious interest. Some nodded respectfully. Others gave him a wider berth than before. Word traveled fast in the Confederation. Humanity's introduction had officially begun. 3 days after the training spar, Jason found himself in a part of the Confederation station he had never seen before. The security protocols to enter this area had been extensive. His retinal scan and DNA verification had been checked 3 times. Now he sat in a circular chamber with Admiral Chen and 6 other humans, the entirety of Earth's official delegation to the Confederation. The walls of the chamber were made of a material that blocked all forms of surveillance. This was a room for secrets. Lieutenant Miller, Admiral Chen began, your demonstration has accelerated our timeline considerably. The Confederation Security Council has requested a full briefing on human combat capabilities. I understand, Admiral, Jason replied. Though I'm still not clear on why my spar with Commander Vrax caused such a reaction. A tall man with salt and pepper hair leaned forward. Jason recognized him as Dr. Alan Rhodes, Earth's chief xenobiologist. Because you did something they believed physically impossible, Rhodes explained. The Valkyrie have been the Confederation's premier warriors for over 3,000 years. Their natural advantages, claws, armor plates, superior strength, have never been overcome by a species lacking similar adaptations. Until now, Chen added. With respect, Jason said, the techniques I used aren't particularly advanced. Any experienced human fighter could have done the same. Precisely, Chen replied with a small smile. And that's what has the Council concerned. The only other military officer in the room, Major Greg Daniels, activated a holographic display in the center of the table. It showed dozens of alien species with detailed physiological information. For 2 years before first contact, We studied everything we could learn about Confederation species, Daniels explained. We knew humanity would be physically outmatched by most spacefaring races. This shaped our entire contact strategy. Jason looked around the table. You wanted them to underestimate us. We needed them to, corrected a woman Jason didn't recognize. Her uniform identified her as Dr. Olivia Murray, Diplomatic Corps. The Confederation operates on a strict hierarchy. New species are evaluated primarily on physical capabilities and technological advancement. We deliberately presented humanity as physically weaker but technologically useful, Chen continued. Our goal was integration without appearing threatening. Jason's eyes narrowed slightly. And my spar with Vrax? A calculated risk, Chen admitted. We needed to demonstrate human adaptability without revealing too much. You showed exactly what was required, not our technology, but our ingenuity, our ability to overcome physical limitations through technique and training. The Confederation Security Council has been in emergency session for 3 days, Dr. Murray added. Your 12-second victory has raised humanity's status considerably. We've been invited to participate in military planning committees previously closed to us. Jason processed this information carefully. So my role was to lose respectably but not too quickly. Your role, Chen corrected, was to demonstrate that humans cannot be easily categorized. You exceeded expectations. Major Daniels nodded approvingly. The Valkyrie respect strength. You showed them a different kind of strength they hadn't considered. And now? Jason asked. Admiral Chen's expression turned serious. Now we enter Phase 2. The Council has requested a human combat instructor to train a mixed species unit in our techniques. You've been selected. Jason blinked in surprise. Me? I'm not the most qualified. You're exactly who we need. Chen interrupted. You've already earned the respect of Commander Vrax and High General Zorax. They requested you specifically. The Valkyrie never request training from other species, Dr. Rhodes added. This is unprecedented. Before Jason could respond, the chamber door opened. Lieutenant Porter entered, followed by Kravik. The Valkyrie warrior looked uncomfortable in the human-designed room, but stood tall. Apologies for the interruption, Porter said. Kravik brings a message from the High General. Kravik stepped forward. The Council has completed its evaluation of humanity's combat demonstration. High General Zorax wishes to inform you that your species security classification has been upgraded. You are now recognized as Category 2 combatants. The humans exchanged glances. Dr. Murray looked particularly surprised. Category 2? She repeated. That's only one level below the Valkyrie themselves. Kravik inclined his head. The High General also extends an invitation to Lieutenant Miller to address the full warrior assembly tomorrow. This honor has never been offered to a new species within their first year of membership. Admiral Chen's composed expression barely changed, but Jason caught the flash of triumph in her eyes. Lieutenant Miller would be honored, she replied before Jason could speak. After Kravik departed, the room erupted in excited conversation. Jason turned to Porter, who had remained behind. What exactly is the Warrior Assembly? He asked quietly. The true power in the Confederation, she replied. Military leaders from all 24 member species. They determine defense priorities, resource allocation, and combat doctrine for the entire Confederation. And I'm supposed to address them about what exactly? Porter smiled. About how a physically inferior species developed combat techniques that could take down apex predators. They want to understand the human approach to warfare. Jason shook his head. I'm a combat instructor, not a diplomat. Which is exactly why you're perfect for this. Admiral Chen interrupted, having overheard their conversation. The assembly doesn't want diplomatic niceties. They want practical knowledge from someone who can demonstrate it. The meeting continued for another hour as they discussed strategy. When it finally concluded, Jason found himself alone with Admiral Chen. There's something you're not telling me, he said. Chen studied him for a moment. You're perceptive, Lieutenant. Yes, there's more at stake than just humanity standing in the Confederation. She activated a secure terminal, bringing up images of a distant star system. The Valkyrie have been the dominant military force in the Confederation for millennia. This has led to stagnation in their combat doctrine. They rely on superior physical abilities rather than innovation. And this matters because Chen's expression turned grim. Because 6 months ago, the Confederation's deep space monitors detected something approaching from beyond the galactic rim. Something that destroyed an entire Valkyrie battle group with ease. Jason felt a chill run down his spine. First contact with a hostile species? We think so. The Confederation has kept it quiet to prevent panic. Only the Security Council and now Earth's delegation know. Chen looked at him directly. The Valkyrie way of war won't be enough against this new threat. The Council believes humanity's adaptive approach might be. So I wasn't just demonstrating human capabilities, Jason realized. I was auditioning our species for a war. For survival, Chen corrected. Yours, ours, and every species in the Confederation. Jason stared at the images on the screen, the wreckage of powerful Valkyrie ships drifting in the void. It was just a training spar, he said quietly. Chen's smile held no humor. And now you'll help train the Confederation for what comes next. As Jason left the secure chamber, he found Kravik waiting outside. The Valkyrie warrior regarded him with new respect. My people have a saying, Kravik said. The most dangerous predator is not the one with the sharpest claws, but the one who thinks before striking. Jason nodded. On Earth, we say something similar. The best fighter isn't the strongest, but the smartest. Perhaps, Kravik replied. Our species have more in common than we realized. As they walked together through the station, Jason noticed how other aliens now watched him, with curiosity, respect, and just a hint of fear. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage, and it had taken just 12 seconds to make an impression that would never be forgotten.